1, 2, 3, let's go.
Wednesday afternoon, hoping you will tune into our show.
Question: are our brains one and the same thing as us? Is my brain actually, in other words, called me? Am I my brain? And this is quite a deep question, perhaps more than it might sound on the surface, because our brain is so much more than we could ever comprehend. And we talked about consciousness being actually a very small part of a brain's activity, a brain that is on the go, monitoring and organizing and enabling us to do things 24/7, 365, 366 days a year for many, many years. In most people's cases, it's quite phenomenal what it does. And yet consciousness, our conscious self, knows really very little, if anything, of what our brain actually does do. So that's the question. Are we the same as our brain? Are we one and the same thing? I think I mentioned last week that there's a song in a group of songs by Pink Floyd some few years ago, and the whole thing was called Brain Damage. And there's a line in one of those songs which is something like, "There is someone in my head, but it's not me." Now, I don't remember the context of that in the song, but it's saying exactly what we're saying. Are we actually simply, is our consciousness what the brain is happy and prepared to serve up to us so we can deal with mundane or not mundane things in life, apples, rivers, trains, human interaction, all those, anything we deal with at a conscious level, but beneath all that, there are vast mechanics of activity. So let me pose that initial question to you, Cuz. Do you think that you and your brain are one and the same thing? The person, when you say to someone, "I think this, I'm going to do that," the word "I," which we use a lot of the times in our lives, and me and so on, I, me, we use those words. Just what is this I that we refer to? Is it ultimately our brain, or are there sort of two parts to everybody? There's at least two kind of personalities going on. What is your opinion?
Well, just while you was talking, I thought about something called, now I don't really know what it means because it's a legal term, but I'm deducing it would mean something that would get somebody off a serious crime like murder or manslaughter, and it's called diminished responsibility.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So it just means that that person can't be held responsible for their actions, basically, because they are not of soundness of mind. I don't know if that's correct, but they're not sound of mind. Now, it does bring up another question: what is the mind? Where is the mind? Is the mind the brain? Is it an extension of the brain? Is it a physical thing, the mind? Because sometimes we use the mind as if we're talking about the heart. Sometimes they do. As humans, we would say, well, it's this that counts, or it's that counts. And sometimes we use it in connection with the brain. We could say the mind, what the mind is thinking. So when you say, do we think, is it me that's taking an action? How much of an involvement do I have in the actions that I take, for instance, or that I propose to take? Now,
the leader of our gang will make the show go with a bang and fund the aim of everything Custis. And fund the aim of everything Custis.
In the actions that I take, for instance, or that I propose to take. Now, it's very hard to differentiate, isn't it? And I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this in a mental. What's that word I'm looking for? In a. I don't want to say derogatory. I don't want to say in a derogatory way, because then it applies to all of us. But I'm saying, are we saying it in our own mental capacity? When we say things like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Of course, there's things that people would say, like a mother would say to a child, I'm going to kill you if you do that. Now that could be taken literally to say, well, yeah, she did say she was going to kill the child. If anything happens to the child, somebody somewhere could exploit that and then use it against that person if anything was to go wrong. But then these are words that people would say or have said over a period of time, probably over a child's childhood, and nothing's happened to that child, and somebody else would say that. But I can't really answer that question without actually talking about how it says it in the Bible. And when this is not, we don't talk religion on this program, but the Bible does say something like, safeguard your heart, for out of it comes all sorts of things, injurious things, And then there's another place where it says the heart is treacherous. And then you think, whoa, heart is treacherous. Now, treachery, we know, is got nothing good attached to it. Treachery is treachery. It is bad in itself. But then it's not actually bad until it gives birth to something, until an action is attached to it. So we can have treachery in our heart all day long and think, well, this person's done me that, I wish he dies. But wish is only a wish. It's when we attach a sort of action to it that it then leads back to us, that we can then be held responsible for that. So I would say sometimes the heart can be detached from us, or the mind could be, it could operate on its own. And for instance, if we're provoked, we could do something that would later regret. We would think, well, I'm gonna
of our gang will make the show go with a bang and fund the aim of everything customers, and fund the aim of everything customers.